Well, first I want to say welcome to any visitors, any family that's parishioner families that are visiting the area. Welcome to St. Gerald's. To college students, welcome back. Glad you could join us. And happy Easter. Imagine if you were Mary Magdalene or John, the youngest of the apostles, the apostle whom Jesus loved, as he likes to say in his own gospel. Yeah, the beloved apostle. Who has been with Jesus for the past 3 years. And then, as everything seems so promising, he starts to speak in a kind of very scary way. The Son of Man must die and rise again. This is, what? Can we just keep healing people? That was kind of cool. Can we just keep doing that? And then, Jesus is arrested. John fled, but not as far away as everyone else did. He was able to get Jesus' mother and Mary Magdalene. And they were there with him at the cross. So imagine, you're Mary Magdalene or you're John the Apostle, and you're seeing Jesus dying on the cross, whom you put all your hope into. This must be the Messiah. No one can do what he can do. And yet it seems like the Romans have conquered him. He was supposed to free us from Roman oppression. And it seems like their violent ways have won Jesus over and have defeated him. They watched him get placed in the tomb. If you're doing a good job imagining yourself as Mary Magdalene or John, you watched him get placed in the tomb, and the large stone rolled over the entrance. Mary Magdalene, now that it's the first day of the week, the Sabbath is over, it's Sunday morning, you can now go and properly anoint the body. And so you do. You go there. And you see that giant stone rolled away. And Jesus' body is not there. How do you react? We heard today that she went and found Peter, our Pope, and said, "They have taken his body, and we don't know where they took him." She's freaking out. How could this be? First, they desecrate his body, beating him, hanging him on the cross, which is a curse in Jewish eyes. To be hung on a tree is to be cursed. And now they stole his body before we can properly give him a proper burial? We can't anoint his body? We can't show respect to what is left? And John is there hearing her plea, her confusion, her concern. And him and Peter, right? You and Peter now run to see for yourself. John, the beloved apostle, gets there before the Pope. But he also defers to the Pope. Lets Peter go in. Goes in first. Respect thy elders. And there was something about the scene of the empty tomb that helped them to start believing. Wait a minute. Jesus told us he was going to rise from the dead. And perhaps it was now their belief that helped Mary Magdalene's belief. Because we hear in other Gospels that Mary Magdalene was able to see Jesus. And then Jesus told her, now go and tell everyone else. And then she did. She told the rest of the apostles, I have seen him. He is alive. So on this Easter day, 2,000 years later almost, how do we react? Did we wake up this morning and said, it's Easter, and then you looked outside, it's cloudy? Were you getting all ready for Easter? Family gathering is here, and then family is here. I remember now what that's like. Why do I fall for this every time? So excited, and then they show up. Sometimes we experience traditions as something so great. Maybe as a kid, your parents did a great job of building up your birthday. And so you grew up, you loved birthdays. You were so excited. You always had a bunch of people come over. You didn't even know half of them. And it was just a great celebration. And then you got younger siblings, and now the focus is more on their birthdays. And then your birthday is kind of like just not getting quite as fun anymore. But you hold on, like, no, I'll make it fun. And then you learn how to actually make things like turn into traditions. You got to do the work. But then you send invitations out, and not everyone shows up. And you take that personally. You don't know why they don't show up. But maybe you assume the worst. So now, maybe I won't put as much effort into birthdays. Or once I start having children, then maybe I don't want to get their hopes up just to like eventually get them crushed. So I won't do that to my kids. We'll just keep it simple. Which is fine, you can do that. But what's the underlying reaction to what our experiences throughout life are? And what is our reaction to Easter Sunday? Do we allow ourselves to remember how incredible this event is? Not just for Catholics, not just for Christians, not just for Americans, but for everyone on this planet. And not just today, not just 2,000 years ago, but everyone who has ever existed and will ever exist. It's so crucial to constantly celebrate this great mystery, because it is unlike anything in history. It is unlike anything that will ever happen again. Yes, people have been risen from the dead. Jesus did that while he was alive. It seems that doctors can do that every once in a while. Sometimes it's a medical thing that, they've been resuscitated. Other times it's miraculous rising from the dead. But no one has ever raised themselves from the dead. God's Holy Spirit, united back to God's human body of its own power, in order to defeat death, to defeat our suffering, to take on the curse of sin and implode it. I suppose that's explode, isn't it? From the inside out. Either way, both is a cool image. How do we share that good news in a way that will reach people where they're at? That's the great challenge 2,000 years later. It was the great challenge 1 year later. It was the great challenge the very same day that it happened. Why should we think that 2,000 years later this challenge should become easier? But it's no less possible Because God's Spirit doesn't age. God's Spirit doesn't get tired. God does not get tired. God does not give up. God does not get jaded for thousands of years of people rejecting him. He still seeks you out, and your loved ones out, and your not so loved ones out. How can you then be encouraged to go forth with God's Spirit, with the same excitement of just how good this news is, and share it with others in a way that they can receive and ponder with their own free will and choose to make decisions based on the veracity of this special Memorial Day? Jesus is God. He has defeated death and suffering for our sake. What am I going to do about that? Will I let God change my life? Will I let him? You see, God is in control, but he's not controlling. He gave you free will, and he will respect your free will, even to your detriment. So if God is not controlling, who am I to be controlling? But if God has told his apostles to go and share that I am alive, then who are we to not go and share that God is alive? If you struggle with sharing this good news, then I invite you to our 6-course called Reach One More. 6 evenings, Tuesday after Tuesday after Tuesday, I lost count. For 6 Tuesdays called Reach One More that will go through just very simple and practical ways of sharing this good news with a world that desperately needs it, even though it doesn't know it needs it. To give you the courage and the encouragement, to give you the tools and the motivation, or perhaps better, the inspiration, to invite people into this wonderful Christian life, this remarkable Catholic life, this miraculous new life that is gearing us toward our goal of heaven, which every heart longs for, even if it doesn't recognize it. It recognizes some longing and will try to fulfill it in the things that are most accessible to it. So who are we to keep this perfect good news unaccessible to those who long for the accessible? That's why God became man, to show just how accessible he is in his grace. It's why he gave us the sacraments, to show us, to be accessible to us. That's why Jesus says, I will be with you till the end of the age. How is he with us? He is with us in the sacraments. He's with us in a unique way in the Eucharist. Our nation is celebrating a Eucharistic revival. We'll have a special Congress in the summer. You're able to make a pilgrimage there. To celebrate the wonders of God's love and his mercy, his ability to not be jaded by a world that constantly rejects him. Let us learn from this grace and not be jaded either, but instead always respond with awe and wonder in the good news of God's salvation for us, the good news of God's salvation for the ones we're trying to reach. See them as a saved person and never stop, but always in a way that they can receive. Meet them where they're at, love them where they're at, but like God, love them too much to keep them there. May God be praised now and forever. For Jesus is risen. He is risen indeed.